Campus college football preview video. Today we're taking a look at another week 3 matchup. Central Florida hosting Stanford. We will break it down for you in just a second. Joe Duffy back with me from OffshoreInsiders.com. Stanford and UCF. UCF is laying 7 in this game, total 58. You look at UCF after a win last week, a blowout win, an impressive win against Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic, a team that, always very solid for Lane Kiffin, played well last year. But this is a team that's had 2 blowout losses back-to-back. Nice win for the Knights. They start out the season 2-0. You also look at Stanford. They are off a loss as well. They get blown out by the USC Trojans. Davis Mills starts a quarterback for Stanford for the injured KJ Costello. 2 teams seemingly, Joe, that look like they're going in opposite directions. Really interested in hearing your thoughts on this one. Obviously, injuries for both teams. Brandon Wimbush, he's beaten up and hobbled a little bit. It looks like Daryl Mack will probably be the quarterback for the Knights. And if you remember last year, Mack played well in the injury reserve duty for injured quarterback Mackenzie Milton. It looks as if that Stanford's quarterback situation a little bit more dire. Davis Mills will probably be the quarterback going forward. What do you think here, Joe? What do you like, UCF and Stanford?
Yeah, well, Jeff, I do believe that Brandon Wimbush is going to be able to play. He's probably going to start. But then, as you said, they have a couple options. Daryl Mack, exactly as you said, he played pretty well last year till he wound up getting hurt. And then the freshman Dylan Gabriel, he's very good. So Central Florida, you usually don't say this about a non-Power 5 team, but they've got some serious depth at the quarterback position. As I've said time and time again, college football is the number one momentum sport. Great momentum angle that has to do with teams off of 2 blowout victories is 123-54-4. Now, college sports, I think, both basketball and football, they're the 2 where you can get a little bit more into the situational type handicapping the spots. Stanford, they got to travel 2,422 miles. They're off a disheartening loss to a big rival, and then they host Oregon. So this is kind of a classic sandwich game. Not that they can overlook Central Florida. And, of course, we're recording this earlier in the week, but at least the advanced weather, not shockingly, looks like it's going to be in the upper 80-degree range. And, of course, Central Florida, those guys are used to it. So that would certainly be a big advantage for Central Florida. They're a team that's scored 30 points or more in 28 straight games. But, this is, and another one of my golden rules of handicapping, you can't manufacture emotion. This is a humongous game for Central Florida. This is really what they've been hoping for during the regular season. They get a Power 5 team. They have a chance to make a statement. They've shown, of course, the teams change from year to year, but from whether it was beating Auburn 2 years ago, where they, of course, everyone said, well, Auburn wasn't, fired up for that game. They didn't want to give them credit. And they were competitive last year, especially with the backup quarterback to LSU. So I don't think, I think playing a Power 5 team's not in any way going to rattle Central Florida, just the opposite. This is the game they've been waiting for. This is really a chance to say that they are legitimate. And, like I said, a kind of a tough spot for Stanford. So, as a general rule of thumb, I would see a Power 5 team as an underdog to a non-Power 5, and I would jump on it. But no, I do believe that Central Florida is real, and they're going to win fairly convincing here.
Couldn't agree with you more. This is one that I had written down when I looked at the lines last night. I think there's a lot of things for UCF here that you have to really be excited about. I think that's a great point by you mentioning that, this is really where, if you're a UCF football player in a UFC program, you've wanted this kind of spot. This is a big-time game, against a storied program. Let's keep in mind, though, this is not the same Stanford team as years past. They don't have that bell cow, Bryce Love or Toby Gerhardt or guys like that. This is not a bell cow program with a bell cow quarterback. Defensively, they've not been good. Last week, they got beaten up by a backup quarterback in Slovis for USC. This is a road game, as you mentioned. And this is also a team in UCF, Joe, that whether it was under Scott Frost or now Josh Heupel, this team has been terrific against the number. You look at over the last 3 seasons, 19-7 ATS. They've also covered 17 of 23 and 11 of 15 as a home favorite. They are very good in this point spread range and have been very good as a favorite. I think they're jacked up for this game, whether it's first half or full game. I agree with you wholeheartedly. This will probably likely be a play for me. I couldn't agree more, Joe. UCF, this seems like a real solid spot for the Knights in a big-time game. I don't love this program. I kind of think they think they're way better than they actually are. But, again, great spot heading into your AAC calendar. Get yourself a good 3-0 here on the home run here. So, yeah, I like it. Great call, Joe. Looking forward to it. I think you got 2 winners this week. Joe going with UCF -7 against Stanford. And the other game, taking the doggy with Rice +31 against Texas. Joe, always fun talking to you. It's been fun these first 3 weeks. Definitely looking forward to doing a lot more. Why don't you tell everyone about what you're doing over at offshoreinsiders.com?
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. And like I said, the expected mutual, I'm making it time and time again. I don't think there's anybody better in the what I call the organic handicapping. I like to do more of the advanced analytics where I got a lot of systems that are proven. I was looking at it before you called. I know I'm going to have another big weekend in both college and the NFL at offshoreinsiders.com, and been doing this since the Score Phone days, since before Jeff was born, actually, come to think of it, I guess. Literally been a professional handicapper and gambler full-time since 1988, worked part-time while I was in college before that for Dallas Sports. So I've been around forever, and as long as my health permits, I'm going to be picking winners, I hope, for another 30 years.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, I'll say it and I'll say it again. I don't know anyone that's been in this business longer than Joe. That's pretty impressive. So, look, if you want long-term success, long-term names in the business, Joe Duff is your guy. Joe, thanks for listening. Thanks for joining me here. We'll see you next week.
Talk to you next week, Jeff.